And a great pleasure to welcome to our show today a woman who has written a book that I believe is going to help a lot of people. It's called The Well-Spoken Woman, Your Guide to Looking and Sounding Your Best. We're joined by speech coach Christine Jahnke today from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. How are you, Christine?
Well, hello, Doug. It's terrific to join you and your listeners. Thanks so much for having me.
It's good to have a chance to talk to you, had a chance to read through the book a bit. Now, I have seen books before and helping people with, preparing a speech and doing that kind of thing, but I haven't seen one specifically geared toward women, although it's probably both men and women, obviously, but I think it's a kind of a unique take you have on it. Was that your idea?
Well, thank you. Yeah, it definitely was. I wrote the book because I'm trying to help more women find and use their voices, and the motivation is, women were majority of the population, but we're still a minority voice. People don't recognize, I don't think they really realize that we have 17% of members of Congress are women, and only 2% of all corporate CEOs are women. And communication skills are such an important element in terms of being a good leader. So I'm trying to give women a little bit of a boost. But as you suggest, there are skills in the book that will apply to anybody who's looking at improving their public speaking.
I think you're seeing now, obviously, as women in the workplace, maybe more CEOs, more directors, higher positions for women. They have to go on TV more, do more presentations with, the sales meetings. You're doing more on-camera work or before large audiences. So I guess that is a larger growing population of women that have to get up in front of the public and speak, right?
Well, yeah, and even though the numbers are still a little bit, out of whack, not quite in balance, we have many more role models. So I've tried to feature some really amazing women speakers in the book. Everybody from, if you remember, the former governor of Texas, Ann Richards, who could, tell a story and had a great sense of humor, to someone like Maya Angelou, who's such a tremendous writer as well as speaker. So there's a whole range of different women in the book, and I try to share, from kind of behind the scenes, what did they do so that other people can learn.
Ann Richards, I remember some of the great speeches she made. I think it was one of the conventions where she got up and gave some of those great lines against her foe, and I guess her friend, too, George Bush at the time. But she was a great public speaker. I remember another one from back in the 70s. Remember Barbara Jordan? She was, I believe, a congresswoman who had a very unique style of talking, but very cultured voice, too. So she was another one I remember in Congress.
I don't know what it is down there in Texas, but there's got to be something in the water. Barbara Jordan, as you said, she had the voice. In fact, people, when she spoke, people thought God was talking. It was as if the gates of heaven had opened up. She had that really deep cadence and tone and warm tone to her voice. She was really wonderful to listen to.
Are women, are they less, I don't want to say geared or hardwired, but I mean, are women more reticent to get up in public than men? Is that a fact, or that does not make a difference?
Well, you know what? I think that women have a little bit more self-doubt. I think we're more likely to ask ourselves the question, well, do they really want to hear from me? Am I enough of an expert on this to get up and do this? Maybe there would be somebody better. So one of the things I try to do in the book is talk about taking opportunities, because you never get better unless you practice. And it can be difficult to practice in the workplace because, there's some judgment that goes along with that. But other, less pressured situations, even social events, you could be the person who gives the toast at the anniversary dinner. That's public speaking. You could be the person who asks a question at a conference. And the more you do of it, the better you get of it. So looking for opportunities and not holding back.
And you talk about different aspects of preparing to get up in front of a group. Posture is one of them. I've heard that, and I've been taught that in the past. I mean, if you sort of, either whether you're sitting or standing, have the proper posture, that's going to give you more confidence, if nothing else, right?
Yeah, there's nothing worse than what I call speech mode. It's the stiff presenter who's in lockdown behind the lectern. They grab a hold of the sides of it. We call it the death grip, and they never move. If they move at all, it's just their eyes darting back and forth across the room. It doesn't project much confidence. So the champion stance, and just very quickly rather than standing with your feet shoulder width apart, if you just put one foot in front of the other, that's so much more comfortable because you're taking the tension off your spinal cord, and it allows you to move forward towards the audience, which is very conversational and very interactive. And then we always, drop your shoulders back. That's what gives you the best posture. Drop those shoulders back and tilt your head up just ever so slightly.
Using another term in the book, I thought this was kind of interesting, the Imposter Syndrome. Can you explain that briefly, what that means?
Well, and that's exactly what we were talking about a little bit earlier. This idea of having confidence to get out there. And both men and women suffer from the imposter syndrome, which is that self-doubt. Do I really deserve to be here? Should I be the one who's on stage? And there are any number of things that can, cause the imposter syndrome, but you don't get over it unless you do it. So one of the things I try to do is give very specific suggestions and tips on how to overcome nervousness and stage fright. Everything from how you breathe makes a difference to, interestingly enough, how you lay out your notes on a page. Can you read your notes up in front of an audience? So there are all kinds of little tips that can reduce anxiety.
I enjoyed the chapter in particular, having done some television work as well, on camera kind of work. You devote a whole chapter to tips on looking good and speaking well on camera. Obviously, more people doing that, not just necessarily for television, but corporate videos and corporate meetings, which are going over video now. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that's right. I've been in the speech training business long enough, 20 years now, that's been one of the biggest changes I've seen. Professionals used to get through their entire career without ever having to go on camera, but now we've got YouTube and webinars, so just about anybody will find themselves in front of a camera at some point. And I think the thing about camera is that people are afraid of making a mistake. So as a result, they sort of go into lockdown and they don't move at all. And again, they become very stiff. Whereas what's really important on television is to be conversational. Yeah, people like to watch people that they like. So a relaxed manner, a little bit of movement, a little bit of hand gestures. And interestingly enough, a smile for most people will look really good on TV.
We're seeing more in the last couple of election cycles, too. Women running, obviously, for president. You have Sarah Palin, you have Michelle Bachmann now, and you have, of course, the First Lady, Michelle Obama, now doing a lot of public speaking. So it's important now. More women are getting into the public service aspect, too, so that's going to help them, I would think. More people deciding to go into that field, right?
Yeah, it's kind of exciting. In addition to the women in politics, there are more role models. Someone that I think who's a really good speaker is Sheryl Sandberg, who's at Facebook. And she speaks at many industry conferences where she gets up on a big stage and she has a multimedia presentation. She's a good one to Google. You can watch her and learn from her technique. Someone else who's also good is the comedian Teen Faye.
Sure, yeah, very good.
Yeah, she. You can Google some of the presentations that she's given in the last year. She gave a tremendous address when she won the Mark Twain Award for humor. Yeah, so there are more and more role models out there. In comedy, in business, in politics.
Does a good Sarah Palin imitation too. Tina Fey.
Yeah, that was a classic, wasn't it?
Great job with that. And yeah, you mentioned this women comedians. I mean, again, that was a field that was dominated by men, still is, I guess, for the most part, but there's more and more women in that field now. You talk about Whoopi Goldberg in the book. You go back to like Ellen DeGeneres. She started as a stand-up comic. So that's another aspect of women now in that field, speaking before audiences.
Well, and you mentioned these comedians, and it reminds me that for people to think about using humor, and there's a difference between, we're not talking about joke telling. We'll leave that to the professionals like the Whoopi Goldbergs of the world. Mm-hmm. But the idea of sharing a funny story from life is a great way to break the ice with the audience, and you can send a little signal that, you don't take yourself too seriously as a presenter, and people in the audience will relax a little bit and, take comfort in, they'll probably think, wow, this isn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be if you have some humorous stories.
Well, it's really an interesting book, well laid out and easy to read, great tips in it. It's called The Well-Spoken Woman, Your Guide to Looking and Sounding Your Best. And Christine, give out a website, people can get a hold of the book or get a hold of you.
Absolutely. It's easy. You can just go to wellspokenwoman.com or your favorite online retailer.
That's easy enough, yeah. And Christine, appreciate you taking a few minutes to be with us, and look forward to talking to you again down the road when your next book comes out.
Well, thank you, Doug. I really appreciate that.